Welcome all. This is Bhanupriya of NWC SRMIST. Now, we will be seeing the basics of interaction design along with its components under HCI. So, why interaction design is needed? First, we should understand what is a design. Design is nothing but in order to achieve a goal, you should understand the constraints and the interventions for achieve the goal. Then what is the design process? What happens when that goals to be displaced? Who are the users for that? The humans are the users. Scenarios, obviously the scenarios behind the design, and the way towards the design is your navigation. The prototypes are finally found via the iterative process alone. The design interactions, not just interfaces. Basically, they are the immediate interactions. Now, when you understand the design interventions can be brought not just directly. It is a slow process. What is a design? Now, when you consider a design has to be nothing but in order to achieve the goals within the constraints. Goals are the purpose. Constraints are nothing but the platforms like cost, time, safety, health issues, all those. And trade-offs are nothing but the balance between your goals and the constraints. If the purpose and the constraints are balanced, then no issues. All this depends on the choice of uses. Now, we will understand the golden rule of design, that thing about understanding the materials. How to understand the materials in human-computer interaction? First, understand the system of the computers via understanding the limitations, capabilities, capacities, storage, memory, tools, platforms, all those understanding of the system has to be done. Understanding the people via both social and psychological aspects in order to avoid human error even. And about the interaction, the ways how we interact between the computers and the people. So understanding the materials is primary. Obviously, though you try to understand, to communicate or to commit error is common. Accidents report has to be given properly. The error has to be reported. Though it is common, the error has to be reported then and there. So finally, the user. The user, he should understand the process of design. What is wanted? If it is done, then the analysis has to be done. The design is made. Finally, it has to be implemented and deployed. When you look at after the deployment, you even you design it and even you have a feedback where you end up with a prototype. Later, you can implement it on the hardware in order to avoid cost. Yes. How is this being done? What is wanted? Who will help you to understand the goals or the requirements via interviews or ethnography or so many ways? Analysis can be done via task analysis. The design is done via the principle guidelines to be followed. Then you implement it and deploy it. Finally, you document it. The prototype is understood only by evaluation. The requirements, analysis, design, iteration, and prototype implementation to be done. Requirements, what is wanted is requirement, analysis, understanding is analysis, design, how to, you understood it. Now, how to design it, you decide it. Then iteration and prototype, yes, now we need it to be prototype. Finally, we deploy it and the implementation is done right away. But the trade-off is the time. We have usability and the limited time. Better usability, if you look at only the usability, obviously the important factor in HCI is the maximum usability. But the trade-off for this usability is the limited amount of time. If a perfect system is to be designed, obviously it shouldn't stick on to bad design. It has to be considering the ergonomics. Too good, too much effort to design, obviously, since this is a trade-off. Now, the user has to focus on few cultural probes. via using the imagination. Let's take an example. A description of an example. For example, Betty is a 37-old. Now, she is an enthusiastic about her work. However, now you wanted to like create our own computer system. What all things you will consider? Scenarios to be considered: the communication between others and the models and the dynamics, whether it is linear or non-linear. Obviously, it is a step-by-step process. How to do it? Explore the interaction, explore the cognition, explore the architecture. For interaction, what happens and when it happens. Cognition, what users think of that. Finally, the architecture, whether it is happening inside or not, you are able to execute or not. The pros and cons of the linearity, if you look at it, only one linear path throughout the system, obviously, it is a time like it is less time consuming, easy to understand, and concrete. But the cons are like you have no other choice. If it is misunderstood, then it is unintended. So it is better to use several scenarios via several methods. What are the navigation designs to be considered? Navigation designs to be considered depends on the menus or buttons or screens design or environment or apps or OS. Basically, it can be via the widget choice, screens, navigation, and environment. Within a screen or a local screen, a global screen, or a wider still screen, thinking about the structure. If it is local, then automatically it is goal seeking. Start and now reach towards the goal. The progress with local knowledge alone is done if it is local. But it can, like, you can get to the goal. However, if you have any issues in the middle, you cannot. You get trapped in that. Four golden rules are nothing but knowing where you are, knowing what you're doing, knowing where you're going, and finally where you are being. That is also important. So there are a few breadcrumbs in these approaches. Beware of the big buttons because we do not know what is that. It can be a hyperlink. The modes towards it. Lock to prevent the accidental use. Yes, as like we used in that small Nokia phone, that like that. If the lock is forgotten, then automatically, maybe the delete option is available. Oops, there is an issue. What is global then? Between the screens within the application, this shows the hierarchical diagrams of global system. You have information, help, management, and messages. Under management, you can add a user or remove a user. For everything, the confirmation has to be asked. Wider still in the sense, between the applications or beyond the application, what can be done? In the sense, the style issues, the standards and consistencies to be understood within the functional issues, the cut and paste, the navigational issues like embedded applications, other apps via web. So how to understand the screen design and layout? Basic principles of that, grouping the structure and even alignment along with the use of white space. So first basic principle is you have to ask what is the user doing with that? Think what the information or the comparison to be done. Design according to those. Now, grouping the structure. Logically together, you physically group it. For example, billing and delivery, you group it together like that. Now, how is the grouping to be done? You have to think it and whether it is logical, come on, group it together. Even use boxes to group the logical items or you use the similar fonts like that. The alignment has to be done in the text. You read it from left to right. align it properly. Maybe from right leg, align it properly. Usually scanning from surnames make it very easy, correct? If you look at this example, the second and third make it easy to read, whereas the first one we do not understand. So alignment has to be maintained while designing. Even alignment of the numbers, this is fine. If you look at this figure, you could understand which is the biggest number. Whereas if it is not aligned, then there is an issue. This slide shows an issue because visually longer number, bigger number, then you have to align the decimal points or right align the integers to make it visible and for better readability. Multiple columns, if you have multiple columns aligned properly, often like you have to avoid large database fields where it is not aligned. Use ledgers towards it. This slide shows, whereas this one, no ledger is found, it is difficult to read. Whereas this one, it is okay because your ledgers are used for multiple columns. Then you can even use graying it out or coloring it, highlighting it. This is bad alignment because no ledgers are used, numbers are not aligned, no alignment is found. And what is white space? The gaps between, the space to separate. For example, if you look at this, these are white spaces. This is fine. White space is to even highlight. If you look at this, the physical controls, the grouping of the items can be defrost settings. Yes, for an AC remote. Yes, this shows the defrost settings, the type of food, time to cook. The grouping is done. Depending on the heating temperature, time to cook start. Different colors are used for different functions. It is grouped. Decoration, align, it is maintained with grouping of items, order of items, decoration and alignment. This is a proper one to be followed. What about white space? If you look at this, the gaps to aid grouping, there are few white spaces, not to make it readable. User action and control. So the forms dialogues boxes can be important for entering the information. It should be logically grouped and the tasks should be analyzed within that grouping. For example, name, address. This is not good, whereas this is good. The alignment is proper. Now this is there, this figure, whereas this figure affords grasping. Whereas, like if you have only handle, it can be grasped. Screen objects, it can be used. How to present the information? If you look this figure, name and size, you're not able to, like this one is a size and this one is a name. Aesthetically, the design should be pleasing. That is, it should avoid conflicts. All these designs should work together in order to show a proper distinguishing factor. You can use color and 3D. 3D effects can be shown for a good physical information. Some graphs can be used. Color palettes can be maintained sparingly to reinforce other information. If you look at this slide, it is a bad use of color. Since the contrast is poorly used, the adjustment is not done. Overuse of color is done. Whereas this slide, okay. Finally, what's prototyping? Like you designed, you prototype, you evaluate. If not, it is good, then you redesign and again prototype it. Pitfalls of prototyping. Obviously, you have few pitfalls. You'll get locked under these local points. First, need a good start point in order to overcome these pitfalls. Need to understand what is wrong if you got affected. So what is the software process behind HCI? It is the usability engineering and design rationally. Software engineering is the discipline for understanding the software design process or the life cycle. Designing for the usability is very important in HCA. The waterfall model here shows the usability to be maximum. Initially, you start with the requirements, you slowly design, you do a detailed design even. Finally, the coding is done, integration and testing is done. The maintenance of the model is done at the last stage. In this waterfall model, we get a lot of feedback. You even go to the a prior step. It is possible because this is framed for usability engineering. Usability specifications to be maximum to understand what a user wants. So it should follow, all the design should follow ISO usability standard 9241, which is giving higher priority on effectiveness, efficiency, and satisfaction towards the product. Nothing but the usability of the objective, effectiveness, efficiency, and satisfaction. It is to be given. ISO has some metrics to be followed, and the percentage of all these are given from ISO in order to understand the usability and understand the error tolerance of handling the equipment. The techniques for prototype, obviously, it starts from the storyboard and ends till the iterative design. What is design rationally? Design rationally is the information that explains why a computer system is off. The benefits of this is communication, can reuse the design knowledge, enforces the disciplines, organizes the large scale space. You can even capture the contextual information. Under design rationally, there are two types. One is process oriented and the other one is structure oriented. If you look at the process oriented, it preserves the order. Whereas a structure oriented, it is a post hoc structuring in the sense it considers the design alternatives even, whereas the first one, it considers the process, the second one considers only the structure. Yes. Under that, you have IBIS model, issue-based information system. What is this issue-based information system? It is based on the design rational research. First, you have three elements: issues, positions, and arguments. You need to understand what is the root cause, or what is the root of that particular issue. Positions, resolutions to the issue, and arguments, relationship between different positions and the issues. It is a graphical version basically. So this shows the structure of the IBIS model, graphical IBIS model. The issues, you have three components: issue, position, you have issue, position, and argument. Under issue, you have the root cause and the argument. Finally, between these two, you have positions. You even have sub-issues, which even have the other position arguments to be maintained. Then, what is structure-oriented finally? Structure-oriented contains a hierarchical structure where questions, options, and criteria are to be formed. Questions, major issues, options are different alternatives to the question, criteria, final options to why have you chosen the options. So this shows your QAC. Questions are there, options and criterion. Questions, different questions, even sub questions you can have. Options, the options to solve answers to this questions. You have different options too. Why have you chosen only this option based on these criterions? Finally, what is software engineering? It is a distinct activities and consequences for interactive design. It is usability. Usability is measurements explicit as requirements. For interactive design and prototyping, we should have limited functionality, simulations, and animations. Design rationally, it is of two types: process-oriented and structure-oriented. Now, getting into the design rules. Design rules, when you look at the design rules, the principle of usability has to be maximum, depends on the design patterns or the capture and reuse of the design knowledge. If you look at this figure, this shows increasing authority and increasing generality. The principles, standards, and guidelines has to be maintained. What is learnability, flexibility? Learnability is to understand the interaction style. Flexibility, when the interaction style is flexible between the user and the information, when it is robust, when you're able to have successfully achieve the assessments, then it is robust. Predictability, when the effectiveness is able to have future actions. All these are the principles of flexibility, the dialogue ingestion, multi-threading, and task migratability. Even customability. All these are the principles of robustness, observability, recoverability. Responsiveness, task conformance, standards to be maintained. As already discussed, we have to maintain ISO 9241 standard for usability. Norman's for 7 principle. Thank you.